Anyway, today we're going to talk about this Smith & Cross traditional Jamaican rum. Pure pot still slash plumber and Wedderburn Navy strength, 57% alcohol, blended Jamaican rum here from Heyman Distilleries. I think is actually the brand that puts this together. Of course, yeah, 57% alcohol, 114 proof. And this is fermented from molasses, cane syrup, cane juice, and syrup. So it's not, exclusively any particular kind of fermented source, I suppose. And the loose understanding I have of the blend is that it's 50% Wedderburn rum that was aged 6 months in ex-bourbon, and then 50% plumber rum that was aged 1.5 years in ex-bourbon, and then it was blended. So it's very young rum. Ultimately. But I was having a hard time finding exact numbers. So those numbers might be incorrect. I'm not 100% sure. That's the best I could ascertain based on the information that I had, which means that probably it's up in the air. This could or could not be what those numbers would represent. And of course, I tried to figure out again what plumber and Wedderburn really mean. And maybe if you're a rum expert, you can really know. But it seems like it had something to do with the ester count. So like the plumber stuff was between 150 and 200, and the Wedderburn was between 200 and 300. I'm not 100% clear. I read some other things about distillation too, but it's a little bit confusing. So I don't actually know 100% about the skinny with the Wedderburn, the plumber, the esters, and the age. It was actually really hard to find like clear information. Somebody probably knows, but not me. That being said, it is young rum, young Jamaican rum. So it is quite a bit funky and quite a bit spicy. It's kind of a little bit interesting. Of course, at the 57% Navy strength is quite potent, which is, of course, why they could offer, a rum at this higher proof at such a great price, and it's because it's just not that old, ultimately. Soul rate to set at 100. 25 for aroma, 25 for palate, 25 for finish, 10 for texture, and 15 for my personal subjective opinion. Don't do too many rums these days. Would love to do more rums, and I think this is a gateway to funky rums a little bit. So, maybe we'll see some more, but they're just hard to get around here. I have that Fiji one I'm excited about for sure. All right, so again, it's like on the nose, like butterscotch, and there's like a kind of like funky, like rotting cabbage funk, similar to like Appleton. It's really loud on it. There's something else funky about it too. It's a little bit peppery. But yeah, there's like a vegetal kind of funkiness to it, with like an underlying like butterscotch sweetness, like quite sweet underneath, with some like pepper. Just an odd set of notes. I'm trying to like maybe think of one or two more things that accurately kind of describe this aroma, but it's a little bit like dry. like, how would I say that? Almost like stale candy. I don't know. Like stale cereal. Stale, sweet cereals. There's some other notes in there that I'm having a hard time giving a good description for, because they're kind of a little out there. They're kind of a little wild and weird. Let's give this a shot on the palate again. Smith and Cross, Navy Strength, Jamaican rum. Cheers. Palate brings that molasses, that butterscotch, that pepper, some like kind of interesting spiciness. Definitely kind of like a herbal, but also like kind of a baking spice, like just a cacophony of spice mix there. There's a little bit of that like kind of weird rotting cabbage, funky kind of note. But like mostly funky, molasses, sweet, and like that like peppery, herbal, spiciness. Great intensity of flavor. And again, the thing that struck me initially when I tried this is like, it made it obvious what the potential is for rums. Like this is like pretty good, but it's not like a Cadillac. It's a little bit rough. And it kind of just makes it obvious that like, if you really had a high quality rum, the depth of complexity you could experience in the category. Because of course this is like a blended thing. So something that was like maybe not blended, came from a single distillery, maybe had a little bit more age on it, so it wasn't as harsh. Maybe really got some nice barrel character too. Just imagine places you'll go. There's something that's kind of like glue. Yeah, it's like kind of like glue. Like a spicy glue. On the finish, again, some molasses, spices, pepper, a little bit of funk, a little bit of barrel. Actually, you get a little bit of woody character. Not as butterscotch, maybe. More butterscotch on like the palate and the aroma, maybe. Not as present on the finish. Finish is like a little bit shorter than I would prefer, though. Like it's like maybe short plus, something like that. So it's a little bit short. But great intensity though. Again, we're at a pretty high proof here, so intensity is pretty nice. Not much change here. Maybe a little bit salty. Okay. So what can we say for the aroma? Again, like that molasses, butterscotch, funky, rotting cabbage note. A little bit spicy, a little bit salty. Pepper. Good intensity. 17. I think it's a little bit fiery, but it's not too obstructive. You can get in there still. Palate. A little bit sharp on the swallow, but again, you get that molasses, that spiciness, that funkiness. It's all present. Good intensity. Just a little bit like sharp in some places. I think the palate is like a good 17 as well. It's like not that complex, but you do get a little bit of a transition, like attack to mid to back sort of idea. You know, you get the sweetness, and then you get the funk, and then you get like the spice. And finish. Spice right on the swallow. A little bit of like sweetness, like molasses sweetness underneath. You get some of that like barrel kind of note. A little bit bitter, but like fades a little bit too early. Definitely the length of the finish is something to be desired. It's too short for me for sure. So this is probably like the part that's like the least good, the least goodest. We're straddling like between like 12 and 14, so 13 is probably fair. Texture again seems fine. It's a little bit spiky though, which is not the most people's preference probably. Actually a little bit thin too in terms of like the actual mouthfeel. Really almost disappointing for this proof, but you know, sometimes these rums get distilled quite hot. So if that's the case, then there actually might still be quite a bit of water added to this, despite it being 57% alcohol. It could have come off the still very hot, and it's not very old, so not much of that would have dissipated with age, I suppose. I don't know for sure, but just on the mouthfeel, it's just really not as thick or as oily or as nice as other whiskeys of a similar proof. other whiskeys, other spirits, I suppose. I suppose it's rum. It's a little bit different than barley, but just on mouthfeel, probably 3. I think 3 is fair. All right, it's my personal subjective opinion of this Smith & Cross London traditional Jamaican rum. Again, it's not bad. Pretty like strong showing in aromas and flavors for this price point, obviously. I think most people use this to mix, and it makes a whole lot of sense. Very strong, pungent Jamaican flavors for a good price, right? So as a result, like, you can't really go wrong mixing this. We put life back on the tree. So you're saying they're just going back to the other game. Everything I've read recently is we're going back to the other game. I'm over it. The like spikiness and maybe the like downfalls of this kind of like tame mixed, but it's on its own. It just misses a few things, but obviously it's very cheap. So you can't really argue with the price point. But for me, this is like maybe a little bit of my like funky rum gateway. I definitely like taste this and I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I want to try more Jamaicans. But this, I could tell this was missing the mark. It was short. It had potential. It shows the potential of the Jamaican rum, but misses in a lot of places. Especially on the finish, especially on like random spikiness. You know, some interesting notes, but mostly like samey and similar and not that nuanced, but the potential is there, right, for a nicer presentation. And this is blended. Imagine if it wasn't blended, right? So for me, I gotta say, I'll give it a 6. I think that's reasonable. Putting these together, we got 30, 47, 50, 56. 56 out of 100. This is a good rum. It's good. And for that price, fucking great, dude. How much was this? Like $40. Steal. A steal of a deal.